Okay, welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. We are going over the Pacific Division. It is my last standings, my last division. I have had a little bit of a cough, so I apologize for that. I will do my best to pause if I have a cough, but I'm not as quick on the mic yet, so I'm getting there. But anyways, we're going over the Pacific Division. We're going over my standings for them. I've gone over every other division: Atlantic, Metropolitan, and Central. I just posted the Central as well, and so we're going to go over these in my standings, and we'll start from 8th all the way up to 1st in this, and also I am going over just the division in this video. But if you want to see any other season previews, I did all 32 teams from Winnipeg to Anaheim, and so if you guys want to check those out, check them out. And if not, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and all that YouTube-y jazzy stuff that people always say, because hey, it helps. That's why they say it. That's why we say it. I guess I'm part of this now. So anyway, let's just jump right into the standings of last year. So you had the Vegas Golden Knights, the Stanley Cup winning Golden Knights, taking the division, just barely squeaking past Edmonton with 111 points, and Edmonton just having 109. But I mean, look at this goal differential, just 22 extra goals by Edmonton. I mean, they're the definition of a glass cannon, let's be honest. So then you have LA, of course, Kraken making the playoffs, beating out the very injured Colorado Avalanche, Calgary Flames, Vancouver Canucks, San Jose Sharks, Anaheim Ducks. So Anaheim Ducks, look at this, negative 129 goal differential. That is god awful. Hopefully Gibson can get a bounce back. And so speaking of 8th, let's talk about it. In my opinion, I think that the 8th team is going to be the San Jose Sharks. They are intentionally rebuilding. I don't know if you know this. They actually moved out some pretty big players, being that they moved out Timo Meier as well as Erik Karlsson, picking up Mike Hoffman and Mikael Granlund in the process. And they're also picking up Anthony Duclair as a cap dump as well. So this team is just not prepared. They're going to rebuild. They want to be bad. They're trying to pick up bad contracts and dump caps and pick up assets. So this is just the plan of it. There actually is even talk of selling off. They said if Couture has a place that he wants to go to, they're willing to send him out for a good deal. Right now he's on the IR, but he knows it's in a rebuild. But you rather him have an opportunity to go get a cup, right? I mean, that's just the plan. I mean, and goaltending is just not much better. You have Mackenzie Blackwood and Kaapo Kähkönen. Unfortunately, the trade with Kaapo Kähkönen did not work out as well as I thought they would. We show their guys right here. Here's you have Kähkönen, you have Blackwood over. If you scroll over theirs, even on a New Jersey Devils team that Blackwood had 22 games, he had 3.2 and a .893 save percentage. And it was actually pretty similar to Kähkönen on the San Jose Sharks, although he had a winning record. He had a similar save percentage of .883 for Kähkönen. So you just want to see more out of them, but let's be honest, they don't want to see more out of them. They're rebuilding. So I mean, hopefully some of these guys can have some sort of bounce back, and they can retain and flip them, and they can go out and play a season with someone else, right? That would be the best deal. But the main focus for San Jose Sharks is not being good. Again, it's having some of the young guys and some of the people the younger players that they signed prove that they can be studs, right? In one case, Philip Zadina, who the Red Wings lost, a 6th overall pick in the 2018 draft, I believe it was. Let's go over here. We'll check it out. It doesn't show his draft. Anyway, but I'm pretty sure it was 2018 that he was drafted. And so he did a mutual contract elimination. So they eliminated the contract. The Red Wings. So it was not a buyout. It was he just wanted to get out of the contract. So because the Red Wings had too much depth, so he wanted to play on a team where he can really prove himself. And look at this. He's going to be on their first line. This is exactly the position he needs to be in to show that he has the power, and he signed a 1-year contract. You're also looking for big steps out of Thomas Bordeleau, who will be taking. I mean, he'll be starting to. You want to get him to make progress because he's starting to get a position on this team. He will be part of the new core that is coming through, as well as where you at Eklund, the William Eklund, Billy. So you want to see steps from them. These two players. I mean, honestly, it would be phenomenal if Zadina could solidify a spot and get a good contract on a team like this, where he can be a centerpiece for the San Jose Sharks. I'm bummed the Red Wings got nothing for him. Right? They tried trading him. But I'm hopefully the Sharks is a great spot where he can just, again, rebuild his confidence, rebuild his ability to score. That was what he was drafted for, was to be able to score. And again, that is what you're looking for. Or potentially, they could take him and they could flip him for picks, right? If he plays really well as well. So we will see how that goes. But again, they're rebuilding, so not a big deal. Moving on next, we have my 7th team, the Anaheim Ducks, who were terrible last year, but did get better this past year, signing Radko Gudas and Alex Killorn. Alex Killorn, of course, fractured his finger, and he is out for 6 to 8 weeks. So that is a bummer there. But there's a lot of good stuff that is happening with the Ducks, especially if you've seen this this nice little cap space they got here. 8.33. That's not too bad to be working with. So I think it's going to be huge for them to use to pick up dead cap, right? Because right now they are starting to take those steps. They're still at the start of the rebuild with having Zegras and having Leo Carlson, who will be breaking out. So they have Zegras. They just signed Zegras and Drysdale. Start with there. They extended Troy Terry as well to a 7-year deal, 7x7. And also, again, you have young guys like Leo Carlson making the lineup. Mason McTavish is going to be an established player on this team as well. Another young player. Where is another one? Oh yeah, moving through here. Where is it? Yeah, Minchukiev, Pavel Mint. TQ. Anyways, he's supposed to be really good, drafted pretty high as well. There's a lot of young rookies. Again, similar to the San Jose Sharks, you have some young guys coming in. You want them to take steps forward and really show that they can earn a spot on this team and stay on this team and continue to improve their development, right? One of the things they did take on is Ilya Lyubushin as a cap dump. But I can see some trade targets being Jakob Silverberg and Adam Henrique as well. And also, as per usual, tis the season. Will John Gibson be traded this year? He has a massive contract, of course. So if you're looking at him, he's got 4 years at $6.4 million, and definitely with his production the last couple of years, it just hasn't been there. He hasn't been a good trade target because one, he's expensive and he hasn't played well. It'd be one thing if he was expensive and playing well, but he's not playing well either. So you're looking for a bounce back for him as well, and you got a nice young goalie, young backup in Lucas Dostal, 23 years old, a 3rd round pick. Had a .912 in the AHL, so maybe you can see him being the future goaltender and really learning from a mentor like John Gibson wouldn't be bad because he had some very good years in the past. So maybe we'll see some improvement from there, and they can move him and retain him half or something like that. So we will see. So moving on to the next team we have is the sixth is the Vancouver Canucks. I know. I'm sorry, Vancouver fans. I'm actually going to post this in Vancouver just because I know that you guys will have a lot of conversations about this. But to me, I'm just not sold. I'm just not sold on what the Vancouver Canucks are doing. I don't understand it. I don't like it. Are you rebuilding? Are you retooling? Are you trying to be better? It seems like you're trying to be better because you were trying to be better. You signed Miller. You traded at Bo Horvat, though. Your captain and your center and first line center. You bought out Ekman Larson, which I agree with. But then you took that first you got from Bo Horvat, and then you traded for Philip Hronek. And then you also traded for Casey DeSmith and Sam Lafferty, who are they're NHLers. They're not great, but they're not trade pieces. They're just kind of guys. They're kind of DeSmith is a backup, I guess. So. And hopefully, Demko can have a good season this upcoming year. If we look at his numbers from last year, I think he had a lot of injury issues. And Spencer Martin, who they put on waivers, who was their 3rd goalie, took on a lot more responsibility than he should have as a young goalie. You have Demko playing 32 games, .902. And a 3.16, so below average. But again, you want him to have a bounce back where he's playing well, and you kind of need to if you're Vancouver, because I think Vancouver wants to make the playoffs. I mean, they sign Suter, they pick up Soucy, they pick up Ian Cole, Teddy Bluger. I mean, these are real players. Teddy Bluger, Stanley Cup champion, Teddy Bluger. And Soucy will give you that grit and that toughness, especially Ian Cole as well. Suter is a great 3rd line center. They make Hughes a captain. That's cool. I'm a huge fan of Hoglander. I'm glad he made the roster. And so this is exciting. But one of the big concerns you have is Pettersson going to sign? Is he going to? I mean, he performed well last year, 102 points in 80 games. So is he going to be re-signing? And do you want to see another big year out of Miller? Where is he at? JT Miller, move over here. Come on. JT Miller, 81 games, 82 points, So you want to see another huge year out of him. But unfortunately, you also have Ilya Mikheyev on the IRs with Tucker Pullman, who probably won't play again. So we will see. But Ilya Mikheyev, you want to see for that 4.75, you want to see a little more production out of him. Well, at least if he plays the games, he should be able to get the production. So we'll see that. I'm just not confident in what they're trying to accomplish. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. They have some weird contracts on here too. The Tyler Myers one is up at the end of the year. But hopefully they could turn over a lot of this roster. I mean, they're going to lose 3 defensemen if they don't re-sign them. They do have Philip Hronek is an RFA though, so I'm sure they'll re-sign him. I thought this was a great pickup. He had 39 points in 64 games, and I think playing on that PP1, PP2, probably PP2 because Quinn Hughes playing on PP1, will be a great opportunity for him because he was great on the Red Wings. I really liked him. Bummed to see him go, but I'm excited for him to have a new opportunity. So moving on to the next team that we are working with. To me, this is my 5th team, and I actually debated between this team and the team that I have making the playoffs. And going through there, and I convinced myself, and I had them in 4th place. I had them making the playoffs because I felt that they could do it. But then I kind of lost confidence. I just wasn't really sure. So I have the Seattle Kraken making the Seattle Kraken. Is that right? No, I thought I had Seattle Kraken. No, I have Calgary. No, we were going Calgary. My apologies. I have these ordered wrong. I have Calgary missing the playoffs. To me, I'm not sold. I'm just not sold on Calgary. I'm not sold on Markstrom. I don't know if they're a great goalie. I'm not sold. I thought the Huberdeau deal was too much for a guy who had a one-off season. I like Kadri, but I don't know if he's worth that much for that long, right? Backlund, I know he's older, but he's your captain, but you sign him for 2 more years, and then you have all these guys that just don't necessarily want to be here. I'm just not convinced, right? You move your highest point scorer into Foley, who wasn't going to sign. I'll give you that. He wasn't going to sign, but you could have used him and then traded his rights at the end of the season treated his rights at the end of the season instead of letting him walk free agency. Then you guys have Toffoli, who traded for Sharon Govich and a 3rd round pick, which I believe Sharon Govich did all right. I thought he wasn't as good. Let's see, Sharon Govich, he's a left winger, 30 points, 75 games, not terrible, but I think maybe in a bigger role he may be able to produce a little bit better. They also claimed AJ Greer off from Boston, and one person I am excited to see is the Matt Coronado. I think he looks good. I think he's exciting. He's going to be a top player on this team, and to me, that's one of those guys that core that you should be building around. A lot of these guys, to me, Calgary should be going to a rebuild, a retool of some sort. They already moved out of from Gaudreau, who left, to Chuck, right? Lindholm wanted out. Backlund was unsure, but he's older, so he might as well just play the rest of his years with it, because I don't think he's going to get a Stanley Cup with them. But Hanifin doesn't want to be here. There's a lot of, and there's talks about Vladar being gone as well. So to me, there's just a lot of there's not a lot of solidification of people that want to be here. So if you don't want to be here, send them. Get them out of here and bring in guys that you want to be here that are going to be productive. And don't let it, first off, don't let it get to this point. But to me, I'm just thinking they need a retool. They need a year or two to retool. Let some guys kind of develop, like Coronado, Peltier is on IR. And really let some of these guys kind of rebuild themselves, right? I think Jonathan Huberdeau needs to rebuild his confidence back. He went from 115 points to 55 points, a 60-point drop, and I think probably one of the biggest drops you've ever seen in history, because it was a huge drop in points, and I just don't think it's possible that he's going to hit that top again, but we'll see. And another thing that gives me confidence in my decision of them missing the playoffs is that they said, we have Dan Vladar and we have Markstrom, and I understand keeping Markstrom, he's an expensive contract, but you have a phenomenal goalie in the AHL who you sent down named Dustin Wolf. And to me, that means they're not committed to making the playoffs because they're keeping a goalie like Dan Vladar. And Dan Vladar played well. So if Dan Vladar I lied. Dan Vladar did not play that well. I thought he played better than this. So, I mean, he's only making $2.2 million. But in 27 games, he had a 2.91 goals against average and a .892 save percentage. So he didn't play that well. So trade him. Get rid of him. Bring up Dustin Wolf. I just don't think they're committed to making the playoffs because I just don't think they want it bad enough. They just don't want it right now, and that's okay. If you're in a position where you don't want it and you're not ready to go into the playoffs, then don't just accept where you're at and then move forward, right? So anyways, so then we're moving on to my next team that I have, and going back, I am going to the Seattle Kraken. So the Seattle Kraken, I have a little bit more confidence again. I was writing down here. I don't really have anything bad to say about them. I was look at my notes because I had a lot of things to say about Calgary. Huberdeau had a bad, right? Like you moved out to Foley. Like you have these guys that are UFAs right now. They don't want to sign here. You send out one of your best prospect goaltender down to the AHL. But with the Seattle, the only downside I really see is a couple downsides, but nothing too crazy. That wasn't different from the year before. Let me phrase that. So they do have downsides. So one is they did send Shane right down to Coachella Valley, which is concerning because as high of a pick as he is, a lot of this movement, I think he just needs to find a home and stick there and develop, right? Especially being projected as the first overall pick in 2022, that can be difficult for a player, as we saw. But we know he's bitter. And we know he's going to use that to fuel his fire and just, show what he's got. So, but Seattle did have a huge year from Jared McCann, 70 points in 79 games, as well as Vince Dunn having 64 points in 81 games, extending Vince Dunn in his contract. Great player. I mean, and they had also had another player in the playoffs, Ty Cartier, 5 points in 10 games in the playoffs from an undrafted guy they just picked up on the side of the road practically. And so Jared McCann signing right here. So he's a $5 million. And then where are you, Vince Dunn? Vincey Dunn. Vincey Dunn $7.35 million for the 4 years. So great contract. I think that's a phenomenal pickup. And again, you're not signing these guys for too long, so you have a lot of movement. You have Ron Francis is not saying, hey, give me that 8-year contracts. He's giving these guys, so there's a rolling cap. There's no superstar where you need to sign them up for 8 years, but these are good players that you want to keep for a bit. So you sign them to 2, 3, 4-year contracts. And so you guys can keep rolling out new guys and trading and then repicking up new guys. So one person you want to see production from is Burakovsky, who was injured quite a bit last year with 49 games, only playing 49 games, but he did have 39 points in that span. So if you can see that production out of him, getting a good 70 points out of a player like that, that's exactly what you like to see. And actually at 70 points, I believe he'd be one of the top point producers on the team, right? 70 points was where Jared McCann was at. But yeah, if he had 70 points, Burakovsky would be tied for a top in the team. And so I think that's exactly what you need. You want a good another year out of Matty Beniers, 57 points in 80 games. Great rookie year from him. And I'm surprised you're getting as much production out of Jordan Eberle for a player like him. 82 points or 82 games, 63 points. I like Eberle. I'm surprised he was given up in the expansion draft. A couple players you did sign: Yamamoto, who was traded from the Oilers with Klim Kostin to the Red Wings, and then bought out by the Red Wings and signed out in Seattle, which is where he's from, which is exciting for him. We also signed Brian Dumoulin, who played most of a good chunk on the Pittsburgh Penguins. The big losses you have are Ryan Donato. I'm a big fan of Ryan Donato when he was on the Sharks. I'm actually on the Sharks. Actually lost him. But he signed with Chicago. You lose Sprong, who was a great 20 goals depth scoring, who the Red Wings picked up. And Martin Jones, who actually had 27 wins and played a huge chunk of games. Not a great save percentage, but he did play a ton of games. Now the third goalie in Toronto. So you need to have to make up those goaltending. And that's one of the things I am not confident in is the goaltending. Because you have Grubauer, who had a 2.8 goals against average and a .895 save percentage. And Joey Daccord only played 5 games last year. So I'm just not confident in the goaltending. And you're paying Grubauer $5.9 million. And I think you just need him to step up and be better. He just needs to be better and needs to get his confidence back. Supposedly he worked over the summer, working hard to try and bounce back. But we will see what they do. But I am not confident in that part. But I do have them making the playoffs in the fourth place. In the fourth place. I had to look at my notes again. So we'll see the sneak in. But again, maybe Calgary beats him out. It is contentious. I could see them flipping in that case. So we will see how that works out. Next up, we have the next team that I have going is in third place is the third place in the division is the Los Angeles Kings. For me, I thought I actually don't. I like the Pierre-Luc Dubois deal for Winnipeg. I don't love it for the Kings just because the Pierre-Luc Dubois has not been yet a huge production yet. His highest points is 63 points in 73 games last year. You're playing a guy that's $8.5 million for the next 8 years. It's a lot of money, and hopefully he can continue to produce on that. But now you do have some of the best center depth in the league, which is something to say. It is something to speak about, right? It's crazy, by the way. He's making $8.5 million, and Scheifele and Hellebuck just got signed for $8.5 million. That is wild to me. Wild. But you have Kopitar who signed an extension for $7 million over 2 years. So that after this year, the $10 million will drop to $7 million. Get a little cap savings. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Deneau. I mean that's a great 1, 2, 3 right there down the line. They also have Byfield, who hopefully he needs a breakout. 53 games, only 22 points. You sign, he's a second overall pick, so you really want him to step up and really be that dynamic player. I don't think he's ever going to live up to that second overall pick position, but I do think that he can be moved to the wing and just be working with Anze Kopitar to harness his skills, and hopefully he can eventually move to that center position. But hopefully he looks good at the wing this year. They traded for Gavrikov at the trade deadline from Columbus, and he ended up with 9 points in 20 regular games as a defenseman, but only 1 point in 6 playoff games. And he ended up getting a pretty good sized contract in $5.875 million over 2 years. Again, I just wasn't super impressed with him. Again, he was in Columbus and he was in LA on only 19 points in 72 games. Like, I'm just not convinced with that. So I don't know why they signed him for so much. It seemed a little bit excessive to me, but I wouldn't have done that. So but I do think one reason I have the LA Kings up here is I think they have some really good game breakers here. They have some pretty good, I would say, game breakers, and I would say game breakers. You have Doughty, you have PLD can be. Hopefully, that's why you pay him for. Hopefully, you get Anze Kopitar, perennial sulky contender. I mean, there are some really good players here. Fiala, they traded for from Minnesota. I mean, he had a great production last year, 72 points in 69 games. So there is some good players on here. Alex Lafreniere, not Alexis Lafreniere, but Alex Lafreniere, different guy. But hopefully he comes up as a rookie and proves he has a little bit, proves that he can get a solidified spot in the roster. But one of the big moves they ended up doing is they ended up moving Cal Peterson's contract along with Sean Walker to Philadelphia, doing a cap dump there, as well as trading Sean Durzi to Arizona for a second round pick. But one of the two concerning things you have on this team, and we'll just a quick one, is they send down Kaliev, Turcotte, and Brant Clark down to the AHL, who are some of the rookies who you thought would make the lineup. And I think that they just need a little more development. And this is not their year, but hopefully next year they can solidify some spot. Because Brant Clark looked phenomenal in the OHL last year. I think he had something like 67 points in 40 games or something like that as a defenseman. So he was doing really well. Actually, let's check him out real quick, because I'm curious on this now, because I don't want to speak out of turn here, but he had a phenomenal OHL season. So if we go here to the OHL, let's exit out of this because I don't want to get demonetized. I'm not making money off this anyway. So OHL, 61 points in 31 games. My apologies. So, and then in the playoffs, 23 points in 12 games. Crazy, man. And again, I don't know why you're moving down there, but maybe you just didn't see enough production from him. But again, they'll develop in the AHL. So, and the other big questionable thing with the LA Kings is your goaltending. You have 3 goalies who are meh. They're all meh. David Rittich is definitely your third. Cam Talbot did not play very good in Ottawa last year. Phoenix Copley, however, earned himself another contract. Played very surprisingly well, especially for being pretty much a perennial AHLer. .903 save percentage and a 2.64. If you look at his stats in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure he had a decent playoffs, which is one of the reasons that they kept him around. So going here, playoffs, not a great playoffs. Never mind. He only played one game in the playoff. That's why. So I think they had most of that going to Korpisalo, which is why he got the big contract last year. So that would make a lot more sense. So, anyways, I think that there's LA Kings. They're on the upswings, which is why I have them third. They're just not fully there yet. This division isn't fully that good overall. There's some high highs and some low lows, and then you have some swash in the middle. Honestly, I could see LA dropping and like Calgary and Seattle taking over that. It just. But to me, I think the high end talent's a little bit better on the LA Kings. I think they came out of the rebuild a little too early, but we'll see. So, anywho, moving on to my second overall in the Pacific Division, we have the Edmonton Oilers. I think I can see them being potentially taking over the first spot from Vegas, but I think there's some questionability in the depth defense and the goaltending. For me, I mean, Edmonton is going to score a ton of goals. You have McDavid, you have Draisaitl, Hyman, you had Kane, Hopkins, right? Like Nugent Hopkins. Sorry, I mean you have a lot of great play. You got a lot of great players. Bouchard had a phenomenal season. Let's talk about him. So a couple things that happened. They picked up Ekholm last year on the trade deadline from Nashville, but he is currently on the injured reserve, so they are waiting for him to come back for there. So hopefully he can bounce back quick enough. Also signed Connor Murphy, which I thought was a sneaky good deal. He just has a lot of injury issues. He is signed for mostly performance deals, so playing X number of games, he earns signing bonuses in that way. And they also extended Bouchard, who had 40 points in 82 regular season games and had a huge monster breakout year in the playoffs. And honestly, if he would have gone into the playoffs, he could have potentially been a Conn Smythe contender. He had 17 points in 12 games. If you had that over 24 games, you're looking at 34 points out of a guy like this. Like, it's just crazy how many points he has, and he's such a young player. And honestly, he might be replacing Nurse as the PP1 because he's that good, which is an issue for Nurse because Nurse needs to produce and show that he's worth that $9 million contract that Ken Holland signed him to. Ironically, you have Stuart Skinner, who played super well in the regular season. He had a 2.75 goals against average with a .913 save percentage. So the .193 is pretty good. And you have Campbell, who is again making $5 million, the more expensive goalie in this case, only saving or had a 2.41 goals against average and a 0.88 save percentage. So that's an issue right there. But the ironic thing is in the inverse, you actually in the playoffs, Campbell ended up they ended up putting Campbell in too late and didn't play him often enough because, again, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, because he had a worse regular season, right? Skinner in the playoffs had a 3.68 goals against average and a .883. So your .883, you're looking at a third stringer right there. And Skinner is the future. He is the future of their franchise in goal, in my opinion. And Campbell, in 4 games, he had a 1.02 save percentage, which is goals against average, which is crazy. That's crazy right there. And then he had a .961 in 4 games. So this is why I'm like, when your goalie's not playing well, you put in your other goalie. That's why you have 2 goalies. You don't just take. That's what happened with Boston against Florida, is they kept Ullmark in, knowing he was injured when you had a perfectly fine Swayman, ready to play. So again, that can be the fault of the team not making those decisions and recognizing you have 2 goalies for that reason. So that is one of the. I would say. I mean, of course, again. Who do we need to talk about? Connor McDavid? Do we need to talk about Draisaitl? They had monster season. I mean, look at 1.87 goals per game, 153 points, crazy. 104 points for Ryan Nugent Hopkins. For Leon Draisaitl, 128 points. Who's even on this line? Zach Hyman, a point per game. 83 points in 79 games. I mean, Connor Brown, this could be a huge bounce. Like he's gonna make if he can play, he's gonna be a great move for him. As well as Evander Kane coming back he was injured, 41 points in 28 games. So hopefully he stays healthy. And look at this minute muncher in almost 23 and a half for Darnell Nurse. So again, it's their glass cannon. They're gonna bomb. They're gonna score their way out of goaltending. So which is why they're second in my rankings for the Pacific Division. So moving on to the last team, and you know them, you love them. Most likely you hate them though. Instead, I actually really like them. I'm excited for them. I don't necessarily like the tradings and some of the deals they do, but I have the Golden Knights taking the number 1 spot in the division for the Pacific Division. So the reason I did this is because one, they won the Stanley Cup last year, and they kept almost everybody on this team that was the important pieces, right? They traded for Barbashev, kept him. They did move out Riley Smith for a third, which is a bummer, and they also lost Teddy Blueger and Quick, but Quick didn't play in the playoffs. He might have pitched a little bit, but I think he played like one regular season game. Blueger wasn't a huge ad, but he was traded from Pittsburgh. He ended up signing in Vancouver. But again, they re-signed Barbashev, who had 16 points in 23 regular games and then 18 points in 22 playoff season games. Also re-signed Aiden Hill, who had 27 games in the regular season, had 2.5 goals against and a 9.15 goals against average. But in the playoffs, playing a phenomenal playoff, playing phenomenally in the playoffs, splitting. The Vegas Knights had Leonard, who didn't play last season because he was long-term injured. They had Thompson, monster goalie, playing phenomenal. Aiden Hill was their 4th goalie, right? Because if you think Leonard was planning on coming into the season, didn't, right? So that's the first one. Thompson was your number 1. Brossoit was your number 2. Thompson was number 2. Brossoit was your number 3. Thompson gets hurt. Great. And then you have to go down, and then you're in the playoffs. Brossoit's playing, and Brossoit gets hurt, so Aiden Hill takes over, right? So in Aiden Hill in the playoffs, and the reason I'm building this up and this drama of it all is that in the playoffs he had a 2.17 goals against average and a .932 save percentage in 16 games. Well, that's monster. So he earned a big contract. I think let's see what he earned. He earned a good sized contract with this. Yeah, $4.9 million. That's all right. By the way, they traded. So Aiden Hill, we talked about Vegas. We talked about Arizona in my Central Division. We talked about Arizona Coyotes. Arizona Coyotes traded Aiden Hill to the San Jose Sharks. San Jose Sharks traded to Vegas Golden Knights for a 4th-round pick. So they got Aiden Hill for a 4th-round pick, and he took him to the Stanley Cup. This is why you don't need great goaltending, which is why I have LA so high. You don't need great goaltending. You just need a hot goaltender, right? That's just what you need just to kind of skyrocket. I mean, look what happened with St. Louis Blues and Jordan Binnington. They were in last place at the start of the year, January, and they put Jordan Binnington in and then won the Stanley Cup that year. Crazy. Again, so we talked about Leonard, who might not actually play again, which is a bummer. It is tough for him. Marchessault, who they have still, but he won the Conn Smythe, meaning he won the MVP of the playoffs. But he does not have a contract next year. He's up in 2024. If you look here, Marchessault, he is up and his contract only goes till 2024. Mind you, he is 32 years old, so I don't know if they'll end up keeping him, which would be a bummer, but it's just the name of the game, and that's just how Vegas does it. If they can get better by trading you, they honestly might trade him at the trade deadline, which would be wild. And the crazy thing is that the one crazy fact is with the Vegas Golden Knights, every person on the team is over 6 foot besides Marchessault, which is wild. By the way, Vegas does come out with a little disadvantage having Whitecloud and Martinez on IR, which is a bummer. So, anywho, this is who we got for the Pacific Division. Going over them, if we look at my list, we can go through them. We have Vegas taking the number 1 spot, Edmonton scoring their way to the 2nd position, Los Angeles making big trades to be able to get in that 3rd position. Maybe goaltending keeps them from falling out of this 3rd position. Seattle, I think, is just a little bit more, can roll 4 lines and take out Calgary. If Calgary's can't step up. I don't have a ton of confidence in them. And again, I think they should be going through a retool. Vancouver, no idea what you guys are doing. I don't know if Vancouver fans know what the Vancouver is doing. Are they trying to be good? Are they trying to be bad? You guys let me know in the comments. Anaheim and San Jose are rebuilds, and while Anaheim does get a little bit better and San Jose gets worse, they're in rebuilds. They're just looking to rebuild. Hopefully the young guys get better. So let me know what your thoughts are. Hit like, subscribe, comment, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you.